Get ready for Netflix's gripping new medical drama, Pulse. Set in a cutting-edge Miami trauma center, third-year resident Dr. Danny Sims is unexpectedly thrust into a promotion when beloved chief resident Dr. Xander Phillips gets suspended. Then, with the emotional and physical stakes at their highest, a storm will push the hospital and its residents to their limits. Witness how life can change in a heartbeat when you're operating under pressure. Watch Pulse, only on Netflix.
I'm going to just start off the coffee break by mentioning what Sonam just said. He said that Italian food's overrated. So
I can't get to the soundboard.
Yeah, that is just heinously incorrect. Wouldn't you say?
Italian food is overrated?
Yeah. Or do you agree?
I think I agree. Fuck. I'm sorry. I think that like Italian food is an easy way in. But because it doesn't have that dynamic of flavor profiles.
Yeah, but see, that's what I appreciate about it so much is it focuses on ingredients rather than making a sauce or something. Or like it just focuses on good produce, and I just think that's excellent. And then nailing one particular thing. So
I just kind of think it's a little bit boring at times, unless you go to like somewhere that's awesome.
Okay.
I think it's accessible. A good pizza, a good pasta, it's all good, but it's always like
wood-fire pizza
buttery,
for me is
tomatoey.
Like, yeah, wood-fire pizza for me. And then, just a nice mushroom pasta just goes absolutely insane.
Like, but a dumpling, a laksa, a standard broth, like a Japanese broth or something down that way has like so many more dimensions than,
Yeah, all right, well... To the coffee stuff now.
To the coffee stuff. Welcome back to Coffee Break. This is another episode. This is a hot episode. Well, you're very keen to get this one out because we've got a Best of Panama statement that was officially released, right? And you guys basically broke down what they're getting at. And from my like kind of outside kind of take, it's that they basically talk down the implementation of co-ferments and altered coffee, and that some of the coffees that did go through the Barista Champ,
or the Best of Panama,
are now kind of disqualified.
They identified coffees in their words that were found to be cheating. So they were either co-fermented or masquerading, in their words again, under the terms co-fermenting or thermal shock. And so, to be honest, I just want some clarity around that. And if you're going to disqualify people, I don't really necessarily want names. We don't need to come after farmers and forever destroy the reputation. But I'd like some testing, a bit more clarity into that. It's like an educational thing that we can all use going forward. So I mean, the whole thing among this is a very niche topic, I guess you could say, but I think it'll inflame a lot of people in the coffee industry. But I'm very glad in a way we're having the discussion. And like I said on the podcast, it's kind of like Panama coffee in general does not need to defend itself because they're just so high above pretty much everyone. And the coffee is just so excellent. And a co-fermented coffee doesn't even come close to, a really well-made washed or natural geisha, like just not even close. So in that sense, it's like, I kind of like, okay, well, you don't need to feel in any way personally slighted because these other coffees don't come close. So
at the moment,
well, there we go.
I mean, it's a process, right? So like the way that like the energy behind it is like, it's like the elite athletes. Like these guys are on roids, and they have like all the alarms go off, and it's like all these things. But the more you look into it, it's kind of like, wait a second.
Yeah, well, I guess...
Wait a second.
We don't even know from this statement or off the website, and maybe I haven't done my research properly, but we don't even know if they've actually broken a rule or if there's a rule, what's broken. I just want to see these rules.
I was like losing my mind behind the decks because you were like, look, I tried to find the rule book, but you couldn't.
You can find it for the barista competition, and I guess that's, people can publicly enter. The amount of people that can realistically enter the Best of Panama competition is limited to producers in Panama, of which there's probably not an enormous amount because it's a small Central American country. But yeah, I just really am interested to know what rules are broken, if there is a rule, and they kind of mentioned things in the statement as well that they want other jurisdictions to embrace what they're sort of embracing by banning it. So the governing bodies per se, maybe they have their own sort of variations of the rules, but perhaps that's something we'll see more clearly elaborated on in the future.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of a natural progression. Like I think the convo I was expecting to be like it to be really, I don't know, hot and heavy and on the topic, but it actually seems like a natural progression. Just like, I don't know, like you talk about whiskeys and I was like, is this a similar connection to like if you're saying like Sailor Jerry? Like you brought up your cinnamon coffee that you sell at your cafe, and then that compared to a more, I don't know, natural, less touched or tampered product. Is it similar to that where like you've got like whiskey from, like very pure cast, like, everything. And then you've got Sailor Jerry's where there's like a second flavor.
Commercial.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, exactly right. And if I were to make another analogy out of that, where I would say, well, putting a co-ferment, or an additive into your geisha as a Panamanian producer is kind of like getting the best of the best whiskey that's been aged for however long, let's say 50 years or something. You're cracking up a really rare whiskey, then just putting some Coke in it. Like that's kind of the same thing to me. Coca-Cola.
Yeah, of course. Absolute blasphemy. Absolute blasphemy. I was just about to say, like, on a level to compare, like, do you know your whiskeys?
No.
Okay, great. Well, then don't worry what I was about to say. I was going to say, like, what is a Panama coffee like in comparison to like a whiskey? Like, is it like
it's the apex
top?
It's the apex of coffee. It's the apex of coffee, and some people might disagree with it. Yeah, like
apex.
It's the highest point. It's the summit of Everest of coffee, and some people might disagree with that. There's some really excellent producers in Colombia, like La Palmel Toucan, Diego Bermudez from Finca El Paraíso that I mentioned before.
Is that what you guys had today?
Yeah, so it was from him. And then, the Cafe Graja La Esperanza group, they also produce excellent coffees. There's the Finca Tequesi in Bolivia. I could go on for hours, but there's some excellent producers. But really, I mean, I don't think it really gets much better than Best of Panama. A lot of the other countries have a Cup of Excellence competition. Panama kind of walk to the beat of their own drum in a way by having the Best of Panama competition. And the prices that they get for their coffees are totally, totally enormous. I mean,
it's kind of cheeky now that I think of it.
Well, we spoke to Mark Dunton last week, and we were kind of talking about how he said that producers come in all shapes and sizes. Well, a lot of these people that are at the very top of the Best of Panama auctions, like they're making serious bank. Like a few years ago, I used to get coffee from, and this isn't taking personal shots at anyone or saying that it's wrong. There's a market and there's value and people are willing to pay for it. It's great. But coffees from Alita Estate or Longboard coffee, they just fetch such enormous prices nowadays. And this is to my point of why I don't think Panama even needs to defend itself as a country, because there's a market for what they do, and people pay such enormous amounts for that coffee, and I still don't think a co-fermented coffee comes even close to the level of quality that a geisha from Panama is, or any coffee. A lot of coffee, like a Catuai from Panama, even. So, that's kind of where I'm coming from.
What I got from it was that we don't want to like block out the little guy, but I feel like the industry, and especially in the competition, all I've learned from this pod is that it already is. It's like there's the use of tech that you can afford or who can back you. You guys were talking about like
in the competitions,
percentages of like how you treat your water, your milk, your everything. It's like there was that naval water filtering system, right? That someone used in competition. I'm like, how is this little guy going to compete with that at all? Anyway, so it's like, how do you, you're wanting to implement more regulation or disclosure, but that like adding another step could block out another person, what I mean?
But this is kind of like the interesting part of our industry, where developed countries benefit from the hard work really of developing countries. So we make money from really what they do. And I kind of, me kind of saying that is also acknowledging that, we kind of do the easy part But to add a layer to that as well, like it's extremely tough, particularly in Australia, to make money from a cafe. I think we're seeing a lot of them close nowadays, and it's very difficult. So it's not always as simple as saying that we get the easy job and we make enormous amounts of money. But on the whole, we do. I guess I'd kind of like to see a situation where we give back, and this is largely what Mark Dundon was talking about last week, having the single trade partnerships and all that sort of thing. I feel like it's we need to, as an industry, include people from those developing countries that really provide us with this industry that we all know and love.
And so just to bring it back to this, it's like for them to be in the same realm, these co-ferments, these like additives actually slightly level the playing field because they can get more like breadth of flavor, right? You can get like, but even today it was like Craig was saying that like they kind of lack depth.
Yeah, and there's an element. Let's start off like this. In a scenario where a producer can kind of ask for a higher price, and let's talk about it in relation to my own cafe. So we get the cinnamon fermented coffee. It costs more than your regular coffee does to buy the green coffee. And then we actually blend it with some other coffees to make it more palatable, but two, to make it slightly more affordable. So if we served it straight, then you'd actually be paying far more for it. Right. So for the cinnamon coffee that we've got as a milk blend, we actually blend it with some other coffees to make it, it would, if you had it straight, it would just taste like you'd doing the cinnamon challenge, taking a spoonful of cinnamon. Okay. But, it also makes it more affordable. So consumers can pay $6.50 and they get a latte and it unmistakably tastes like cinnamon. My question is, who loses in that scenario? The farmer gets a higher price. My customer gets a deliverable experience, and they also pay a modest price for it as well. I don't really know who loses for that, and that's kind of where I see these coffees succeeding and what their role is in the industry. Then we ask ourselves the question: does it belong? It is kind of in some ways a shortcut. And I don't even think it really compares to a Panama Geisha. And like I said in the podcast, I don't really know a coffee professional that would choose day to day to drink a cinnamon fermented coffee over a natural geisha from Panama.
Yeah, you said this on the pod, and I was kind of like, I don't think you would have that coffee every day. But I think to someone who doesn't like the classic, if we go back to whiskey or like drink other beverages, it's like, I think the majority of people would go for like a CC and dry over a beer.
Yeah, probably.
You know what I mean? Like just because it's like a guaranteed experience, it's more applicable because it's sweeter and like the flavor profiles are actually less offensive or have...
Beer can be quite heavy too.
You know what I mean? That's what I mean.
And that's a good point. And to what I was just saying is that with a co-ferment coffee, you're guaranteed pretty much to taste strawberry because it's co-fermented in there.
So why wouldn't the average coffee drinker go for that over a Panama, you know what I mean? That has like a depth of flavor that's more expensive.
And
that's
with a Panama coffee as well. Let's just, if we're using that as an example, one, you're relying on it to be shipped within a certain time frame, so it still tastes fresh. Two, you're relying on it to be roasted somewhat well, which is not always an easy task. And then three, you're relying on a barista to deliver it. And so, if it's can I taste strawberry in this competition, I guess the co-ferment will usually win. But, if you to combine coffee for me is kind of like an act of harm minimization when you're trying to prepare it. You're trying to reduce the amount of damage you're doing by roasting it, trying to roast it as good as you can, you're trying to brew it as good as you can, you're trying to get it to the customer within a time frame, considering once it's roasted, how long do you age it, or how long does it take to ship to a country like here? So it's just so hard to get right. And so this is kind of where I see the role of co-fermenting coffee.
Absolutely. It's crazy. And it's also like you're saying, like the barista, but also what the barista is using to brew it. There's too many variables to to getting a cup. I feel like that's kind of the hardest part of coffee in general, is that nothing can guarantee the cup coming, which is like, there's a beautiful part of that, and that which I think is embraced by like the filter drinker. But it's so difficult.
It's extremely difficult.
to the point where, like, you know, last week we were talking about like disclosing roast dates and the right way to have that, and what you'll get out of that. You know, we're getting to the point where it's like we're disclosing what machine you should be using, what pressure systems, what, like, you know, just so that it becomes more guaranteed, or like, you know.
You can recommend that, but my short answer would be no, because it's just too much to implement. That's what makes coffee so hard. Everyone has their own style. Everyone has their own style of roasting, brewing, you name it. It's just, you know, the cup that you choose nowadays. Yeah, I mean.
Well, I mean, so then the argument again is like the co-ferment, like, makes it an easier and a result. There's more of a guaranteed flavor result.
Repeatable experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, is actually achievable.
It's like, you know, should we be more open-minded to this, being like, embrace it and try and bring that, I guess, that artistic approach, and make sure that like the ingredients being used are really beautiful as well, you know?
But I guess this is where this whole statement comes from, because I think at the conclusion of it, they're saying they should be categorized separately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally. I'm all down for that. Like,
I mean, that just makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not even like...
Yeah. Let's have a competition of what the best co-fermented coffee is. I mean, I don't think it'll really draw eyeballs in the same way that a Best of Panama auction does, or a Cup of Excellence. But for the sake of keeping the integrity of the competition, the integrity of the coffee, and not losing what makes coffee so great, yeah, I'm all for that. No problems at all.
I'm about it. I also think that, like, what I'm getting from this is that they should also do that with tech, like, you know, what the machines you're using, and like,
well, to an extent they do in a competition. There's sponsored equipment that you have to use, prescribed equipment. So there's both positives and negatives to that, because the machinery used in competitions now is quite expensive, and even though everyone has to use the same one, it's like not really. This is probably going to sound quite blunt, and it's really an extra hot take within the coffee break, but
hit me.
Who uses a Storm Barista Attitude or Astoria coffee, whatever the coffee machine is at the world's now? Not many. I've seen one in a cafe ever. How many cafes use the Mythos grinders nowadays? Not many. So, you know, yes, it's good that we all have the same stuff, but really it's not that accessible. You have to, and this is why the companies with the most money do the best at the barista competitions, because they can fund these sort of, not just getting the great coffee, but getting the correct equipment that you need to use as well. And I guess that's both the best and worst part about it, because now, you know, kind of equipment sponsors dominate the World Barista Championship, and that's not really what I want to see out of it.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, like, looking at the comps and you guys breaking them down, I think, like, then, like, we're using F1, right, as kind of an analogy to, like, connects. Like, they all have been, and sport, like, you know, everything's been like pinned down to like class, weight, like, you know, what tires can be used, what team, how many team members, blah, blah, blah. I think that's good. I think that. But
there's a cap in F1 now as well. So there was a cap on, there's a limit on team spending, and people are penalized for it. Yeah. Even though, you know, the Red Bulls, Ferraris, Mercedes of the world will, and what's the other team that's up there? McLaren. You know, they'll always out-resource most other people, and it's reflected in the standings even right now. I've just recently got into F1. This is how I know. But it's kind of, there are regulations in that, because they could actually engineer their own product. Yeah. But it does have to fit sort of a certain regulatory.
I feel like the argument with, like, so with any sport has been like, you know, what, like, play the what if game. Like, what if there was a space where it's completely unrestricted? And I don't think there's anywhere that has actually implemented that. What if the coffee world actually embraced that? And like we said, you know, just disclose it, and then we put that in its own category, and then we go, what can you do? You know, like, embrace that. Like,
the only competition within what we do, so there's I think 4 or 5 main competitions. So there's barista, Brewers Cup, latte art, roasting, and the one where that is really an only. So, and the last one is cup tasters. Now, cup tasters is the only one where there's an actually clear way to win. So you have to identify the right cup within a time frame, whereas the rest of it's just kind of up to rules and stuff that are sort of open to interpretation. Cup tasters is the only one where there's a clear way to win.
Yeah, right.
So brewers relying on tasting
sommelier vibe.
Oh, well, not necessarily. Yeah, I guess you're using deductive, but you're eliminating. So it's not, how.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, you're eliminating the cup that's different from the others. And you've got to do it within a certain time frame. So there's a clear way to win. Well, if you don't pick them all, or if everyone picks all the same ones, then who did it the quickest? That's how to win. Right. Whereas lights out, you're assessing a picture. Roasting, you're kind of who cut the best thing. Who
subjective.
Who brewed the best coffee in brewers and who did the same in barista. So
yeah, it's true. It's also like when you're going brewers, it's like the person telling the story and the people receiving the story can like change.
But I guess in a way that's kind of where competitions like the Best of Panama, I can trust the integrity of it because of the level of scrutiny. There's like large judging panels of accredited, cup graders that are that. Don't know if they're really invited or register their interest to judge, but I trust that. I trust that. And so I trust that, I know I probably scrutinized a bit during the podcast, but I trust that they correctly identified 4 coffees and eliminated them. Right. But I just want to see the transparency around it. So that's kind of my take on it.
I think it's good. I think this convo is good. And if they do start disclosing it, I think that's really kind of sick for a buyer's or a customer's experience, like, having more access to like cooler things and also like not demonizing it, celebrating it and like getting more eyes on it so that the process does become cleaner and easier and like of a higher grade,
And one remark kind of unrelated to what we've been talking about that I'd like to make is that I want us in coffee, and this is kind of where I see our role doing it as well. When I saw this statement last week, I immediately texted the group chat and was like, guys, we need to do a podcast and release it ahead of schedule. Because one, obviously the timing matter of it, I don't want it to sort of lose importance and us sort of miss the mark with it. But two, it's kind of like in sports, one of the things that I enjoy the most about following the NFL or the NBA is that the trade rumors and, the off season and the notifications that this guy's doing this, same with the UFC, all that sort of stuff. I kind of want that for coffee in the sense that we did that World Barista Championship breakdown. It was quite thorough. And honestly, I'd love to be able to do it for national barista competition winners before they go to the World Barista competition so that we actually have a profile or something to reference off with these competitors. So we can actually follow the competition far better. And I feel like we're even the statement says, we're a very new industry. I kind of want us to be able to comment on these things and not stir controversy. I don't see this as really stirring controversy because I mentioned some people by name there. And again, just to reiterate, these people are on the record. So Sasha Stich and Christopher Ferran were some of the ones that I mentioned. And, I just think that we need to not be afraid to have these discussions. And also for people that are going to comment on this and share it and such, just be mature. You don't need to, some people will come after us probably for doing this, but whatever. That's part of putting yourself out there.
That's good.
But
more convo.
Yeah, more convo. And I kind of want to have a mature, pragmatic discussion rather than just snickering about people behind their backs.
All I'm learning, more transparency. Disclose everything and celebrate everything and where it comes from, Yeah, it's good.
What else did you have any other notes that you wanted to touch on?
Not really. It was all about the tech, like people using that, which you told me, like, they do that in competition anyway. And that's kind of it.
Craig was also an excellent guest.
We said we're going to get him back, right? Like this was a bit more of you needed, Ron Stillway.
But yeah, Craig's one of the most qualified coffee professionals I've ever met. And I dare say the world, because he's been in it so long and, he's so credentialed with his tasting as well. I needed someone to bounce some comments off, and I'm glad we had Craig as well.
Absolutely. Today, like the statement was under the microscope, but when in a couple of weeks, let's get him back. Both when Rowan's back here, we can put him through the paces and hear the history.
He's got a really decorated career in coffee, and if we could liken it to sports, professional sports, he's one of the pound for pound greats in my opinion. So I'd definitely love to get him back. And
we're spoiled to have them on here.
We are. We do. We get some excellent guests. We've got so many excellent ones to come that we're planning as well. So keep listening to this podcast, guys.
That's it. Well, I reckon let's wrap it up there. This has been another episode of Coffee Break. Please hit us up. What do you think about the statement? That we'll be putting out like a couple shots. Get involved. What do you think? Email us at hello@itsjustcoffeepod.com and we'll get back to you because I think the conversation is important and I'm loving it. It's
been awesome. Another great one. Thanks for helping me get this together on short notice.
Oh boy, let's do it. I got to go edit this.
Yep.
Let's get it done.
We'll try and get this out in the next day or so.
I'll make it happen.
We'll see. Thanks again, guys, and look forward to you all enjoying this, sharing your thoughts, throwing some savagery at us, and all the above. So thanks again. And as always, it's just coffee.
Woo!